We would like to show you how you can use any of the Ketron modules, such as the SD90, SD40, or even the Audio 4 to enhance your existing arranger, workstation keyboard, or music station, or any keyboard that you have. For that to happen, both your keyboard and the Ketron module have to communicate together, and that is done with a MIDI cable. Now, in this case of the Yamaha Tyros, it has two MIDI ports, MIDI A and MIDI B. So this device can actually communicate with two separate devices simultaneously. For the sake of this demonstration, we're going to use MIDI A. So we have MIDI in and MIDI out. The MIDI out is used to send information out to an external device, otherwise known as a slave. So in this case, this will be the master, and this will be controlling an external device, which in this case will be the Ketron SD90. So you have a cable that goes out here from the MIDI out of the Yamaha, and the other end of the cable, which is MIDI in, will come into the Ketron right here, where it says MIDI in to keyboard. Now, if you intend on using the Ketron arranger capabilities, you want to use the MIDI in too. The MIDI in one is if you're using a sequencer or an external DAW and you want to use the Ketron as a sound module. In other words, you like to have access to the GM banks and you want to have your unit or your software play your MIDI files or your information and use this as a module. But in this case, we're going to be controlling this. In other words, being able to play the voices and the arrangement, controlling the launch pad and what have you coming out of the Yamaha. What the MIDI out does is any information that is created or generated on the SD90 comes out through the MIDI out. And the MIDI through is a parallel connection to the MIDI in one. So whatever information is coming in on MIDI in one and MIDI in two bypasses the internal circuitry of this and comes out through this port to control another device. So that's your first step. The next step now depends on you. You're going to come to the Yamaha output or your keyboard output, and you're going to go out here where it says left and right main. So if you look at that right there, you have your line out and you have your left and right output. We strongly advise that you use both left and right where applicable, because a lot of the newer keyboards today have stereo sound, stereo sampling. And what that does is there's certain sounds that are either panned or have a lot more weight or volume or effects on one end than the other to create the actual total feel of the sound in question. So you're going to have these two outputs that are going to go to your mixer. And then, of course, you're going to also have a left and right, which is the two outputs from here going to your mixer. So these will go to a different channel on your mixer. Okay, so that means that you're going to give your soundboard or your soundman these two for the Ketron on one channel on the mixer, a stereo channel, and those two another channel on your mixer, and you can control those two individually. Now, for those of you who intend on singing, or if you want to use the harmonizer, the good harmonizer in the Ketron, you would plug your microphone right in here, okay? And you can have a separate output here that goes into your mixer. Again, that'll be a third channel on your mixer, which you would use just to control the vocals. So let's look at the way that we're going to set it up on the front. In other words, on the SD90 in this case, and on the Yamaha. Again, this can be applied to any other arranger workstation or keyboard controller. Now that you have the units physically connected, you want to proceed as follows, and be careful what I'm saying right now, and I'll explain to you why. First of all, you want to turn on your current keyboard, okay? And once that is up and running, then you want to turn on the controller, and here is why. Sometimes, depending on the manufacturer, when you turn on the master keyboard, if you have this one on before, there's some MIDI information that gets transmitted randomly as the machine is booting up, and that information may come over here and may not be received as intended. So what may happen is you might have lower volumes when you're playing a style or anything that is abnormal. So to avoid that, you want to turn on your master controller first. When that's completely booted up, then you want to turn on this. In that case, whatever was coming out of here will be ignored. Okay. Now let's proceed to setting this up. What are we going to do here? So the first thing you want to do is try and set up the MIDI controller. So in this case, we have a Yamaha Tyros5. You're going to go into function, and then you go to here where it says MIDI. Okay. And in that MIDI, I'm going to go over here. You see have all the different parts. I want to go to all parts. Okay. So I'm going to hit A right here, and I'm going to go to edit on the bottom of the screen. So this right here, second row, corresponds to the bottom button right here. Okay, so I'm going to go down here to edit, and you're going to have a screen similar to this. Now remember, this is your transmitter. This is going to be sending information out, so you want to go to MIDI transmit, and to do that you use the two tabs over here. Okay, go over to transmit, and these are all the parameters that govern the transmission. So we are using port number 1. Remember, on the back of the Tyros you had port 1 and port 2. Actually it said A and B, but what they mean here is port 1 is A and port 2 is B. Okay, so we don't care about port 2. We want to use port 1, and these are the different channels that we're going to be talking about. So in our case right now, you want to go into where it says write 1, write 2, and write 3, and these are the different write voices here to set which one do you want to be transmitting on what channel. Now this is where you have to make a choice. If you want to use this and just place voices on here, but also be able to control voices on here through the entire range of the keyboard, okay, you don't care about these channels, then you're going to turn these guys off. Sorry, you're going to turn these off. What you care about here are upper and the lower. So the upper is going to govern the entire right hand section over here, okay, and the lower is going to govern the left hand section over here. Now some keyboards have what they call a global MIDI transmission channel, which is even better, because global will mean that everything is being transmitted on that particular channel. So you can set it up here for a global channel 1, and then over here for channel 1, or whatever your channel you're looking at. But in this case we don't have that, so we're going to go here and we're going to go to upper. So you're going to move this part over here to where it says upper. Right now it says off, and you're going to change the channel using these buttons over here. Okay, and you want to put this out of port 1, channel 1. You want to go to lower, and you want to again do the same thing. You want to go to port 1, channel 1, and you want to turn off the other guys. Okay, so these guys you want to turn off, and you do that by hitting these two together. Okay, so it goes off. So you move up the port right there, move up, turn it off, move up, turn it off. That way there's no confusion. Everything that has port 1 on it, you want to do that. Okay, so the only thing that should be going out should be port 1 upper and the lower out of port 1, channel 1. The multi-pads, you don't care about them either, because you're going to sync the clock, so you don't care about that. So all of this guys should be on 0, and you go through all the whole list. Now when you've done that, you want to go over here. The next thing will be the MIDI clocks. You're going to come here to system, and you see where it says clock internal. You want to make sure that the MIDI clock here is set to internal, because you want this one to be the one that's the master, that's driving this one. On this one, you're going to set it to MIDI clock external. Okay, so here we're going to put MIDI clock is internal, so this is the master, and you're good. And then of course you get out of there, and then you can now get out, and when you're done you can save it. And I did it already here, and I just named it Ketron. So on this machine you can have multiple MIDI setups. Okay, and you hit save and give it a name. So in my case I gave it the name Ketron. So what does that mean now? All my upper voices are transmitting on channel 1. Whatever I play on the lower section here is also transmitting on channel 1. Okay, now you come over to the Ketron side, and the story is the reverse. You go into menu, and you want to go into MIDI. You want to make sure you have a standard mode. On this machine there are default settings for accordion, for keyboard style, and different devices. Technically you can actually have 9 different setups, and these are all default from the factory, but I can go in and change like I'm about to do right now. I want to go into standard mode, and I'm going to go to arranger keyboard, and right there it tells you the different settings that are coming in. Again, these are the MIDI channels that are transmitting, so I want to go into MIDI receive. And you can, for the receive, you can do it channel, shift, status, or filter. Okay, but we are concerned right now with the reception, RX, and these are all the receive channels. So you can see right now on my Ketron, I have everything else here off. All the different independent channels. The channels for the drums, the bass, I have them off. I don't care about that. What I do care about is the right, left, and global. And in this case, because I'm doing everything here on the same channel, okay, I'm going to go here to global 1. Good day and welcome to this presentation of the Ketron SD9, SD40, SD60, and most of the arranger keyboards from Ketron. Again, another video to illustrate some of the features of the SD90 and how those can benefit your existing piece of gear. So in this example, we've already synchronized the Tyros5 to the SD9, so the clocks are synchronized, the MIDI clock. And I'm going to explain some of the stuff I'm trying to do. So I'm trying to play, you know, let's say a country beat for an example, but I want to use, again, some of the elements from the SD9, especially the live aspect of it, the guitars, bass, drums, and some of the elements of the Tyros, in particular the multi-pads and some of the polished arranger parts, okay, and the voicing as well. So how am I going to use them? I'm going to use some voices from here, 1, 2, 3, which you can see are set up over there correctly. And on the Ketron side, I'm going to use the right hand voices, which can either be 1, 2, 3, 4, or my second voice as well. And let me explain this a little bit better, okay? So for this particular style, which is called two-step country, I have decided to use the voice to ABC feature, which means that when I am in arranger A, for an example, the first voice that's going to be selected is this voice. If I'm in arranger B, that voice. C, that voice. And D, that voice. Now, watch this though. I can predetermine which voice this arranger picks up. So in this particular arrangement, yes, it's a 1-to-1. A goes to that, B goes to that, C goes to that, and D goes to that. But maybe, just maybe, when I'm in D, I want to be in the musette, which is the third voice. When I'm in C, I want to be in the trumpet. When I'm in B, don't go anywhere. I want to still be in trumpet. And when I'm in A, I want to be in violin. So guess what's going to happen now? When I press A, the violin is going to be on. When I press that, it's going to go to that voice. When I press this guy, it's going to stay there. And when I go to this guy, it's going to go there. And I can save that as a registration. So even though it's a 1-to-1 mapping, I can program individually these actual arranger parts to select either one of those 4 voices, or I can turn the voice to ABC off and I can be the one to override that and select what voice I want to do. So right now I'm just going to leave it the way it was. When I'm in arranger A, I want to use the violin. B, I want to use a classical violin. C, I want to use the musette. And when I'm in D, I want to use the Mexican trumpet. Okay, so let's go back into A. So now another feature we're going to talk about real quick is the fill and drum in. So let's say I'm playing this for an example. As you can notice, there's no drums, but rather than hitting 2 buttons, I can just hit a fill, and after the fill, the drum comes back in. Also, another interesting feature, if I go to page 3 over here, fill to arranger and the auto fill. Now if you notice, sometimes when you're playing, you have to hit the fill and then hit what variation you want to go to. Well, if I have the autofill, if it's playing and I hit the fill, it automatically switches to the next variation. Sorry, fill to arranger A does that. So fill to arranger, okay? And the other one, which is the autofill, works the other way around. If I am playing the arranger and I hit the variation, it does a fill automatically. So I'm going to have both of those features on, okay? So when I hit a variation, it'll do a fill before going to the variation. And if I hit the fill, it'll fill and then switch variation, okay? Back to page 1 now. Now, something else I want to do, okay? In arranger 1, I want to switch that live guitar. So I'm going to go to view. Right now I have that country riff, okay? That's a live guitar. I don't want that. I want to get that guy out of there. I want to pick another live guitar to use with this guy. So I'm going to scroll my list and I'm looking for finger picking. Okay, get a little bit louder. That's a nice guitar there. Nice guitar. maybe for the beginning I may not want it, so I'm gonna just put that muted. I put the mute on, okay? When I start playing, I'm gonna bring it back in later on. So that's how I have that guy set up. Okay, let me get back into my main page and let's see what we have here, so you can see the live guitarist off. Over here I have my lead voices. Let's see what we're gonna pick here on the lead voices. The first voice I have the still. Turn this guy off. The second voice I have is this guy. And of course I've got my pedals still over here. So I'm going to start with this voice over here. Let's see when I combine everything, what do I have? I'm going to go to variation A and I'm going to start this guy over there with A as well. Now again, I'm going to turn off the drums here, okay? Turn off the drums and bass. So everything else is going to play but the drum and bass. I'm going to get the drum and bass over on this bad boy. So without much ado, let's start my song. How am I going to start this off? I'm going to start this off with this guy. Here we go. Some strings. And there you have it. Again, of course, you're performing live, so there's bound to be a little bit of mistakes and hiccups, but then that's what happens when you have a live band, right?